各位同学，大家好，我是黄老师。今天我们一起来学习 le. Let's learn the grammar of le together. Le basically has three different functions. The first one is to mark the completion of an action. The second one is to mark a change of state. And the third one is used as a component of special patterns, such as 太了、太热了、太大了、太小了、太贵了、太好了, etc. Since we only have a very limited number of special patterns that use le, we are going to talk about them when we encounter these special patterns. Today, we're only going to focus on the first two functions of le, completion of action and change of state. First, let's look at le as a mark of the completion of an action. Now, let's look at an example. 你的朋友说，你昨天做什么了？你说，我昨天看电影了。So with the use of le, we're talking about what you did yesterday. 做什么了？看电影了。So the action of 看电影 is completed. So there are actually two possible positions of le in this kind of sentences, such as 我昨天看电影了 you put it at the end of the sentence. And 我昨天看了电影 you put it after the verb. You can even use both. 我昨天看了电影了. Usually, you can use these two positions interchangeably. The only exception where le can only be placed in one position of the two is when you have a specified object. What does that mean? That means you have a quantity, a number before the object, or a modifier before the object. In that case, you can only place le after the verb instead of the end of the sentence. So normally, when we do not have a specified object, it would look like this. 你喝茶了吗? Or you can put le after the verb, 喝. Now with quantity, 你喝了几杯茶? 我喝了3杯茶. Now you have the quantity, 几杯 and 3杯. In this case, you can only put le after the verb instead of the end of a sentence. Now, another example with a modifier. 谁喝了那杯茶? Not just tea, but 那杯茶, that cup of tea. Or 谁喝了我的茶? Not just any tea, but my tea. So these are modifiers for 茶. So in this case, you also can only play le after the verb instead of the end of the sentence. 懂了吗? Now, let's practice. If you want to ask your friend, what did you do this morning? 怎么说? What did you do this morning? 你今天早上做什么了? What did I do this morning? I ate dumplings. 怎么说? 我吃饺子了. Or you can put le after the verb and say 我吃了饺子. Oh, how many dumplings did you eat? In this case, we're asking how many, which is a quantity. So how would you do this? 你吃了多少个饺子? In this case, 多少个 asks for the quantity, which means it's a specified object. So we can only put le after the verb, 吃, instead of the end of sentence. How many dumplings did you eat? I ate 30. 怎么说? 我吃了30个. Again, because we have quantity here, we can only put le after the verb 吃. 懂了吗? Now, another question that is raised often is that is le just like past tense in English? Because when an action is completed, usually it means that action happened in the past. Is that true? No. 了 is not the same as past tense in English. Why? Let's look at this example. 我今天想先做了功课，再吃饭。Did both actions, 做功课 and 吃饭, happen already? No, they are still in your thought. 我今天想 I would like to 先做了功课，再吃饭。First finish my homework and then eat. So, this is an example of 了 used in a future event. It hasn't happened yet. It just means when it is completed. When my homework is done, 再吃饭 I will eat. Let's look at another example. 你的朋友问你，我们下了课以后一起出去玩好吗？ This is an invitation from your friend asking you out. 我们下了课以后一起出去玩好吗？ When do they like to hang out? After class. 下了课以后 when the class is over. 下了课以后一起出去玩好吗？你说对不起，我下了课就得马上回家。When the class is completed, when the class is over, I have to go home immediately. So in both examples, 了 marks the completion of a future event. When this action, this event is completed in the future, then what will happen? Now, let's move on to the second function of 了, which marks the change of state. It is actually quite simple. 比如，我以前喜欢唱歌，现在不喜欢了。What does this sentence tell you? 我以前喜欢唱歌，现在不喜欢了。There's a contrast between 以前 and 现在, before and now. I used to like singing, but now I don't like it anymore. So we use 了 to mark this change of state between the past and now. So now, let's see if you can tell the difference between these two sentences. 我不喝咖啡 versus 我不喝咖啡了。The first one, 我不喝咖啡 just means I don't drink coffee, period. The second, 第二个句子 the second sentence tells us 我不喝咖啡了。With 了 here, it means there's a change somewhere between the past and now. So it just means I don't drink coffee anymore. I used to drink coffee, but I don't anymore. 懂了吗? So both sentences we have covered now. 我以前喜欢唱歌，现在不喜欢了。And 我不喝咖啡了 use negative sentences. But we can actually use this structure in a positive sentence. 比如 Look at these pictures. This is your friend. This is him 3 years ago. This is him right now. So, what have you noticed between these two photos? How has he changed between the past and the current time? I think he gained some weight. So that's a change of state. So in that case, we can say, describe your friend. 他胖了. So he's not always like this. He used to be different, and now 他胖了. He gained weight. Sometimes such change happens gradually instead of suddenly. So, to talk about gradual change, you also use 了 at the end of the sentence, but which phrase would you use to indicate it is a gradual change? 越来越. So, in this case, you can say 他越来越胖了. He's gaining more and more weight. 他越来越胖了.懂了吗?